Welcome to the Yachtllywood Podcast. Here we will uncover the stories behind the yachting industry. Who is Dan Lenard?
He thought like I was a spy or something, you know? This is the only experience I have. I think I was born to do this, you know?
You went back to your Robinson Crusoe instincts.
You can justify even an airplane, but you can't really justify a yacht. It's a pure pleasure. Every next boat must be an award boat, possibly iconic.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Sofiana Bergozzi, your host, and now let's dive into the conversation. But first, take a little second and hit the subscribe button. Thanks to Smart Yachts for supporting this episode and hosting us in their beautiful office in Monaco. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Yachtllywood Podcast. I couldn't be happier to bring you this amazing guest today. And I think I don't need to give further introduction to Dan Lenard. He's one of the most influential person in the industry, from the sail yachts to the motor yachts, super yachts. Dan, thank you so much for being here.
I'm glad we were waiting and planning this for some time, right?
Absolutely. Before everything, who is Dan Lenard besides yachting, besides sail yachts, besides all the sea world?
It's difficult to define me because I'm a person of thousands of interests, you know? Like in one world I could be a captain of a mega yacht. In another world I could be an environmental activist. I could easily be in the movie industry. I love making movies. Not as an actor, but as a producer, as a director. I'm all into movies. You know, I could be a producer of music. I love music. I analyze music. I have all the aspects of music. You know, starting from my father, who was playing a viola in quintet, you know, so I actually, the first thing I heard in my life was Schubert quintets, you know, so I'm like really in art, painting. Then my father was an architect. My mother is a dance impresario. Wow. Of course, she's 81 now, she's not anymore, but I grew up with modern dance, with Martha Graham, with Maurice Béjart. I can really judge you the modern dance without any problem, if it's a good thing or it's something like boring, you know, stuff like that. Everything interests me, you know. Yachts the most, but then I take all the thing from everywhere and I pull it into yachting.
I really can see like you enjoy life and the little pleasures of life, and that's what also makes you so sensitive, not only in the design part but also in all the steps that you are taking for the industry and for the environment. You're not just talking about it but taking action.
I'm an impulsive person, so when I think of doing something, then I have to do it. Once the inception of the idea is in my mind, I cannot anymore go around it, you know. So I convince myself already I'm going to do it before I do it, and then there is absolutely no way I'm not going to do it, you know. And this is how I do all this sporadic stuff, side stuff in my life, you know. Sporadic, I think it's Italian, right? Yeah. It's not English, right?
I don't know. I don't have the same problem.
It's also the problem of multi-language thinking, you know. It's like we're close to Esperanto at one point. You know?
But when I was thinking of this interview, I was really wanted to have you communicating to the people in the industry who admire you. How was your path into the industry and how you became this figure and your ideas became trend and everything, because we know so much about your projects. We know your innovations in, for example, Alfa Nero with the beautiful infinity pool, etc., etc. But how did everything start?
I have to be very honest here. I think I was born to do this, you know, mingle with yachts in one or another way, you know. Luckily, my father, an architect, so a freelancer, you know, could take easily 50, 60 days of holidays. And I was a very lucky child because my parents were very young. They were 24 when I was born. So, you know, a little bit of hippies, you know, at that time, but also academic education, an architect. And he purchased in the end of 60s a place in Kornati Islands in Croatia, which even today is nothing. So then it was less than nothing. Today is a little bit more than nothing. Then it was really less than nothing. Like no electricity, no running water, no shops, no institutions, no police, no post office, no shop to buy food. It was like going into a Robinson Crusoe holiday. Truly, it's my first memory, you know. The first thing I remember is the sea, you know, and I loved that thing. You know, that place is amazing. Even today is a very famous place for yachting. Some of my yachts actually go there, my designs. And it just made this idea into me, like how beautiful the sea is. And at the same time, you know, even in the early 70s, I was 5, 6, yachts were there because it's a natural harbor. At the time, you know, a 35-meter boat was a huge boat, but they came there and anchor between the islands in longer bays and protected from everything. There's no swell and everything. And we were going around with our boats, small boats, you know, outboard engine. And later when I was like 9, 10, with my first sailing boat, I would just go around these yachts and see them in the real natural environment. It's completely different to get this impression of a yacht already being in the habitat rather than learning about yachts going in the marinas, you know. I've never seen marina until I was like 14, you know, but I've seen yachts on the anchor since I was a kid, you know. So I admired those Italian designs of the 70s, and I really loved the design expression in those boats. You know, the Italian design in the 70s was the only design. There was no other design. The evasion, the courage of going out of doing a fishing boat looking a little bit nicer was all Italian at the time. You know, the Spadolini, the long Cantieri di Pisa, those flat lines. Then some fat ship also came, and you say, okay, that's a classic. I already thought back then that's a classic, you know. Today fat ship is a modern boat, but at the time fat ship was a apotheosis of classic, you know, and Italians were apotheosis of modern, you know, and Genoa Boat Show was the place to go to see where the design will go with the yachting, you know. So further as we move on, you know, obviously technical college, architecture university, and then, you know, I could probably decide to go on a yacht as a crew because I wanted to be on the sea. I was a sailor myself. My big love is still sailing. And then I meet Carla Nuvolari. And that's the frequency, you know, like, we are 35 years together, no?
Yeah, tell me that story.
It's just, you know, you walk into a person and you start talking, and then you talk again and you meet again, and you kind of think, what if...
You had this beautiful moment that you met accidentally.
Yeah, but, you know, I was always drawing.
Yes.
That's my principle of expression is drawing, no? I was doing boats, I was designing boats, I was dreaming with a pencil, but, you know, I didn't even know that there is a yacht design as a business, you know? And then I started to work with a local production boat designer at the time doing sailing boats. And then one day I just decided, because I read all the magazines that were available from the late 70s through all the 80s, and I learned basically from the magazines, you know, you go through all those volumes, that was the only literature available on yachting. There was nothing on yachting. There was
Tell me if there is something new now.
And so I studied all those. I made myself a little bit of an idea what the yacht design is, and I found this man repeating in a high-end big sailing boats, Martin Franc. And at 20, one day I packed my hand drawings that I did with this studio that was doing production boats, and I hitchhiked to Antibes. And I came very early in the morning. I was also having my Ocean Musto jacket in case I become a crew, not a designer, you know.
Ready for everything.
So I was ready for 2 careers. I went to Peter Insul and I applied as a crew. With his questionnaire, I paid actually 280 francs and I gave a photography, and I applied as a crew. And after I applied with Peter Insul, We're talking 1990.
Okay.
1990. 1989.
Okay.
And then I walked to Martin Franc's office. So I settled the career as a seaman. And then I walked to the Martin Franc's office, who never heard about me. I never called, there was no really internet or something. And I walked in his office and he was saying, who sent you here? I said, nothing, I just read about you in the magazines and I thought you are so cool and doing so big boats. Can I just be here? I didn't even ask like money or something. I was the guy from the street that knocked on the door and he said, somebody must have sent you here. He thought like I was a spy or something, And that was the reason why he thought about it, because they were just designing Echo, which was Blom & Foss, today known as Enigma, in the meantime with Katana. So super modern boat that even today is one of the most iconic yachts ever designed. And I was able to observe that process, sharpening pencils there. And Martin, big friend, my mentor, he said, but where do you live? I said, nowhere. And he said, okay, you can sleep in my old office. Do you have any money? I said, no. He said, okay, I'll give you 300 francs per week for food. And I spent all summer there, and it was one of the most beautiful summers in Antibes, most beautiful summers in my life. In that office was Espen Oyno, also just launched as a naval architect, but following as a project manager Echo.
So he had already a position.
Yeah, he's older than me a little bit, so a few years.
Okay.
Nick Jeffrey, who in the meantime became a journalist. Mark Smith, he's a partner in some of the big offices. Johnny Horsfield from H2. These were all people there in that office at that time,
So that office was a nest.
Office was a nest of. I was the youngest. No, I was like they were looking at me like a kid. Yeah, like they were making fun of me, And nothing. I saw how the mega yacht office is organized, which obviously was one of the few mega offices in the world. There was Bannenberg, there was Martin Francis, there was Gerhard Gilgenast, there was Spadolini father in Italy, Paolo Cagliari in Italy, Alberto Mercati in Italy. These were the names. Tom Faxas in America. You could make not even 10, at the time. I was with the best, one of the best. At the moment was doing the most interesting project in the world, So that for me was like, okay, Peter Insul, still a friend, lost a bid on me. I never went on a yacht as a crew. I stayed with Martin Francis and that determined me. So after that, I meet Carlo Nuvolari in Genoa. Immediate love and hate, but good frequency. They were asking me, how is to work with Carlo? And I said, I have no idea. I never worked with anybody else. This is the only experience I have to work with somebody. And he's going to tell you it's very difficult with me because he's exactly opposite to me, But, experienced engineer. He loves boats. Few years older than me, so more serious. I was, So he kind of almost catches me, like, you're floating in the space and he gets you.
That sensation.
And puts you down and say, look, we're going to do this. I'll find a client, a shipyard. We're going to design this together. And that's how it started with the first boat, a production boat of 18 meters. And then it was just rolling on, Yeah.
So you're the creative mind and he's
only at the very beginning, although he was always a marketing judgment. He could tell you this is a good design, this is bad, and he still does that even better, of course, after all these years. He can and when he's doubtful, something's wrong. You have to work more. But engineer mind and the design mind, they merge through decades, So I became a little bit of an engineer. He became a little bit of a designer. So it's not Dan Lenard designing this. It's actually a merged mind of two people guiding other people, our partners, that also are with us for years, for decades. So it's an organism now. We all are having something to say, you know. It's not like a despot designer says this is how it's going to be. And that's where you make mistakes. You have to immediately face the critique and immediately put other people with their opinion on something. You know, you are safe with that, you know?
Yeah.
Because
of course
they will tell you what they really think about it, no? So it's never a one decision. It's few people that make this happen, actually.
I have spoken to some of your younger designer, and they kind of told me a little bit how things go, and they say really everybody is involved in the design, even the fresh kids coming, because they have a different vision, and
of course.
they're really, really good. So what would you say is the philosophy of Nuvolari Lenard for your design?
It wasn't at the beginning. We just started to make a necklace of really nice, important spoken boats. So then we started to say, well, every next boat must be an award boat, possibly iconic, different from everything else, always going, never repeating yourself. So when you see our boats, they all look so different, you know. Each one of them, though, established something that then becomes an industry standard, you know. Like very few people know, but Alfa Nero was the first pool in the back.
Yeah.
It became a standard in the industry. Alfa Nero also spots a very little glass fashion plate on the side. Mm-hmm. It's in every production boat today.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
In the meantime, we were using it on Monte Carlo yachts, but now you find it on basically every boat that is out there, you know. We started to do the 3D shapes. The boats were having all the superstructure parallel with the lines of the hull from in a plan view. We started to pull out balconies, you know.
Your bows are very like a sculpture.
We did all kinds of bows, you know. I don't think we ever did any bow that isn't out there, you know. So we always experiment with.
But I feel, from my perspective, your designs have certain strengths. They have a character that they are not equal one to another, but
you know, I'll tell you why.
Essence. They have the silhouette that is. Okay, the yacht is arriving. You know, a kismet with that bows.
It's a parallel with music, you know. A pop music, it's about a hit, easy getting on you, you know, and it's like a fast food pleasure of music, no? Nothing to say, nothing bad about it. I mean, it goes into you immediately, you know? You don't have to research it. I mean, okay, you can go deeper into a good pop song, but it's made to be liked immediately, no? That's why you call it a hit. And then you have a symphony on the totally opposite side. A carefully assembled sound with sometimes more than 100 people with one mind that put it together, playing all these instruments a little bit, you know, like a composer. He probably did play a little bit of instruments. Now you have a director of the orchestra that also makes his own print on this when it's executing a symphony. And that thing still sounds like one sound, you know? So this is what our boats, I imagine, should be, you know? Like product of many inputs and many aspects, and still sound like one sound, still looking like one concluded, balanced, and finished object, you know? And
you said before, being careful of not repeating yourself. So how do you not fall into your own trends?
Well, you know, clients that come to us, they always want to get out of the box. I think that the boat must speak to an observer, you know, even non-expert. You try to be commercial, but you incorporate some stuff in that makes it distinctive, and that's a subtle thing. It's not like building something weird on it, you know. You just build maybe a character, maybe inventing 2-3 new elements that never were employed on a boat, and develop a design around that. And I always like to say a cool design is something that a not experienced person, no designer, if you give him a pencil, will try to describe it to you with few lines, very basically and very unprecise, but you will still understand that he's designing that. And you ask him, design me a Porsche, they will probably do something like this, and then the windshield, and then something that goes down, you know?
If they can observe.
It's so clearly marked, the character of Porsche, that even a not experienced people in drawing, people that never hold the pen, can actually kind of describe it with a few lines, no? If you can do that with the volumes, with proportions, and that's the win, because you actually created emotional interest in a not interested person in yachting at all, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Some things do look better.
Yeah. And now that we are mentioning the people who are not necessarily inside of the industry or don't know much about yachting, we also know that there are so many misconceptions about the industry and so many other industries and people, even big important people, against us. And you are taking steps towards this problem.
Well, you see, yachting was very bad in communication of what it is actually, no? Obviously, because of extremely high expenses in yachting, yacht costs, you know, it's a pure excess because you don't need it, you know? You can justify even an airplane, but you can't really justify a yacht. It's a pure pleasure, no? And yachting industry itself, very traditional, secretive, not speaking about itself, you know, not communicating outside of yachting. Very good communication inside yachting. Everybody knows everything. Outside of yachting, nobody speaks, you know, hardly anything, you know. It created, in a way, a stigma to itself, you know. And stigma is growing now, of course, with environmental movements. It's growing with social problems. It's really just a big problem of communication, because yachting is absolutely opposite of what it is seen, you know. It's the highest possible evolution in prototyping the high-end technology. We can create a mega yacht faster than any other industry can create any other vehicle, car, airplane, anything, you know. Train, you know, I mean, in 5 years from zero to hero, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a huge thing that has the most advanced, latest, hip technologies inside. It's clean. It tries to be cleaner than anything else. And yet, you know, it falls somewhere into a cruise ship class, you know? Yeah. It's a bad communication. Second, as I say, yachting doesn't communicate, but I always like to say it's the biggest injection of private equity into the middle class. Because why? Yachts are built by experts, not underpaid people, like in some industries. In yachting, you have to be good already to just move this chair to that chair, you know. You can't get the job from the street, you know. Yeah. You can't move yachting into third world countries and exploit workforce. You have to get the best of the best right here where we are, you know. It's very difficult. Everybody that tried to do something like that in China failed so far, you know. It will come, but didn't come yet. You need dedication, you need experts, and you need to pay well these people, you know. So if you start to understand that then in yachting the margins are extremely low compared to any other luxury industry, you understand that most of the money of a yacht actually goes into yacht and into a workforce, good and well-paid workforce, which is a middle class that is actually disappearing. So these are perfect artisans, the best of the best, building this extraordinary, precisely built object, getting reasonably good money, you know, and, you know, living life that, you know, it's today somewhere where a middle class should be, you know. We are all middle class, you know, let's say that. I mean, we're not our clients, no, but we are definitely not an exploited third world with yachting, you know, and we calculated more, and not only us. I mean, I must say that also some other people that I really esteem. We calculated that like a 120-meter yacht built properly in a good shipyard in Northern Europe directly indirectly supports 10,000 people for 5 years. Wow. Supports not on minimum wage, well paid, often very well paid, depends how good you are and what you're doing, workforce that is the only people that are able to do this, It's not that you can actually go around and find easily people that are able to do this kind of a level of execution,
And that's only in the building process, but this labor continues when the yacht is sailing.
Look at the yacht itself. How much does a boat generate once it's in its own environment and habitat, Well-paid crew. I mean, if I wasn't, as I said, at the time going to the Martin Franc's office, I would probably work like 10 years on a yacht and open my own restaurant, because that's the money you can get if you work only as a deckhand on a boat and you save something, because you can save a lot. You have your life totally paid.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic wage for a 20-year-old guy starting to clean the boat and maybe even climbing up, becoming an officer, the second, the first. If you are really ambitious, you become a captain,
Absolutely.
And then you are, then a airline pilot is a peanut for you, when you are a mega yacht captain, There are 3 to 1 probably in terms of wage, So.
But what about the sustainability part? Because that's the one we are criticizing.
Well, as I say, this is not communicated, but there is a pride and vanity of yachting industry to create high-end quality in every possible term, even in clean technology. It's not that clients pushed the industry to do that. It's industry itself that actually looks, what can we do better? How can we do better? And then the subcontractors, the part makers, the engine makers, everything that goes in the yacht, everybody wants to do a good job because there is money to do a good job, We are not cutting corners in this industry. So the ship engines are probably the best engines on the world in terms of efficiency. Very few people know, but the biggest diesel on the world is the most efficient diesel on the world, much more than the one in your car. Mm-hmm. It does have the budget to be so, The filtering of the exhausts, the reuse of the waste energy, like heat and everything. All this is circuits that work on a yacht normally as kind of a standard, If our houses were built like yachts, then we would say we have sustainability in architecture, but yachts really do have it, There is also a request of simply because of the high-end quality that materials are the best, and that's not plastic.
Absolutely.
That's natural materials, best woods, best stones, best fabrics, you don't get polyester on the boat, So at the end, if you look at the boat, it's pretty sustainability in mind built thing, But not because we want it only. It's also because the budget allows it,
Yes.
And then there is, as I say, this pride to be better than those, better than that, better than, it's a competition in our industry. And that's very strong force pushing this industry quickly ahead. Mm-hmm. I mean, we are probably the most launched industry trying to find a sustainable yacht, sustainable vehicle, let's say, a sustainable object that moves,
Yes, absolutely.
Much more than airplane industry, They're, of course, trying to do something, but look at them. They work really nicely as they are, Nobody really asks for more,
No, one day maybe they will be adopting some yachting technology. And
not yachting technology, but yachting approach to problematics, Yeah. It's still an industry. The airplane industry is still really, really tight to budget, so you have to be careful. With yachting, you have a client that also wants to make something exceptional,
Yeah, that's true.
And he will finance if the idea is good. So that is the driving force of yachting, not communicated. Mm-hmm. Not communicated at all,
And in 2019, you went back to your Robinson Crusoe instincts, doing the transatlantic on your own without any technology, without any generator, right? It was just a sailing boat. And
it's like I told you at the beginning. I first tell to people I'm going to do something, and then I do it, because now it's no way back,
I do the same, like, oh, don't tell it because then it doesn't work. I'm going to make it work. If I tell it, I have to make it work.
I have to tell you, in September 2018, I didn't have a boat, but I was telling everybody, I'm going across the Atlantic, Then I found these pieces of old abandoned racing project boats that were basically a hull from this, deck from that, the mast from that, and I assembled that within January with a little shipyard that helped me to do that. We never tested the boat. It was a Frankenstein boat, very fast. Nice boat, actually. But people were asking me, what is this boat?
So you designed the Frankenstein?
No, I didn't design anything. I just assembled.
You decided how to put it together so it would be faster. It just happened to
I didn't really have much choice. Once I found something, that was it, because the budget was very low. So we assembled. It's a full carbon fiber boat. It was very fast. But it was old stuff, Still very light, still very fast. Never tried it. We transported it to Cadiz, Spain. Mm-hmm. We assembled it. Was tested 1 or 2 hours, And the next day I left for across the Atlantic, It's still going and nothing broke on the boat. It was well done, Yeah. So the guys in Antigua are racing with it, actually.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's nice. So, but what was the whole concept behind it? Because I know it was not for fun.
I did not have it, the concept. As I was going ahead, I was building the concept of the idea behind as well, Partially was because of the low budget, no? Mm-hmm. So I was saying, okay, engine, why would I put engine if I will only use it when I go out of the port and at the end when I come back? There's no point of using the engine in the middle of the ocean because after 24 hours you run out of diesel, So just makes no sense having it. So it's an extra weight. But for me it was an extra cost. So okay, there's gonna be no engine. Okay, so there is no engine, so there is no electric power, no? That's okay. Less wiring and less things to break, but if there is no electric power, of course, there is no navigation and no GPS and chart plotting and anything.
It's okay, we have the winds and the stars.
No, I said, no, perfect, because this navigation package would still cost a lot, so let's not put it, no? And then as a cherry at the end on the cake, we said, let's not put the compass as well, Let's just not put anything, like no autopilot, nothing, like it's really just like a small
the elements and you, basically.
I got a watch from Ulysse Nardin, and I was navigating with the watch. Actually, it's not that difficult. It's basic navigation, but it doesn't let you. And then let's be honest, going from east to west, you're gonna end up on some place on the other side, The thing is that I actually pretty accurately landed where I wanted, in Antigua,
Wow.
But you have to know there are many helps, Like when you go from Cadiz to Canary Islands, you're on a highway of commercial shipping. Mm-hmm. So, the ships are going up and down, so that's the direction down,
Okay.
And they go mainly either inside of Canary Islands or outside, if they're bigger. So you kind of understand that where the Canary Islands will be, Then with the clouds, with the airplanes, that last day you start to see the airplanes going to Gran Canaria,
Don't try to make it look easy, then it's not easy. Come on.
No, the point is that because you don't have an autopilot, you are all the time at the tiller. You're driving the boat all day, 18, 19 hours a day.
It's amazing. I so admire how you take action. What is your advice for the young designers who want to follow your path, that feel inspired by you?
Well, look, it's a very specific discipline of design. Very technical, no? And you should not fool yourself. This is something you can do without experience. Let's say that this is similar to a medicine. before you're going to perform your own surgery, you're going to take several years in education of yourself to be even able to do something that complicated like a surgery, you know, especially a complicated surgery. It takes years. And yachting is the same thing. So the advice is educate yourself about it. I mean, you have to be passionate about yachts. We could really do anything, you know, but we are focusing on yachts because we love them so much, you know.
Dan, thank you so much. Really so inspiring. Thanks for joining us today in Yachtllywood, the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe for more exciting episodes with incredible guests. Until next time.